In this one, I've got king queen suited in the hijack, the under the gun player straddled, under the gun +1 opens to 40. I call, the big blind calls, we go 3 ways to the flop, the dealer puts out 10-9-4 rainbow, we have a gutter with 2 overs. Checks to me, I bet 65, hoping to take it down, but if I get called, I have a good plan B. The big blind folds, under the gun +1 calls, we're heads up, the turn is a jack, we smash it and currently have the nuts. Things are getting interesting. Edgar, who is a legend in the Los Angeles area, interrupts to start a conversation with me.
What's the difference between your wife and your girlfriend?
While we're waiting for the punchline, the opponent leads for 200.
What's the difference? 40 pounds.
We're all having a good time, but there's a lot going on at once here. I've got the best possible hand, and I've announced a raise to 550. We've got 485 behind, and the opponent is not letting his cards go.
Okay, so cooler,
Call.
Nuts?
Yeah. Wow. Once he says that, I imagine that he's in trouble with the smaller straight. The river is the king of clubs, it's a terrible card. Flush draws get there, and any queen at least chops with me. I turn over my hand, the player mucks, and that's how much I have. We get a count, it's 1,035 total. The pot is well over 2,300. It's by far the biggest hand that I've won in a Gardens Casino meetup game. It's difficult for a pot to be bigger than that when it's 5-5 and it's a $600 max buy-in. I've got a huge pile of chips in front of me. The dealer is my favorite, so I give him a $15 tip. Next, we're dealt king queen suited in the cutoff. Under the gun limps in for 20. He's one of the recreational players. I raise to 80 to isolate him while we're in position with a fairly strong hand that has a lot of potential. Under the gun calls, we're heads up, becomes queen 6-6 with 2 spades, great flop for us. Under the gun checks, I want to keep this opponent in with a wide range. On paired boards, you don't have to bet very much. I actually down bet to 60. We accomplish our goal to entice our opponent. He calls rather quickly. The turn is the 3 of spades, the flush draw gets there. Under the gun takes it upon himself to bet 80. I'm not worried about it, it looks like a blocker bet. Part of me wants to raise and deny equity in case the opponent has a spade. Instead, I call so that I don't scare him off with a hand that might be drawing slim. The river is the deuce of hearts, it's about as blank as it gets. Under the gun checks. The way this has been played, I almost for sure have the best hand. I bet 200 for value. The player tanks, he doesn't believe that I have him beat. He calls, I show him the bad news. The player mucks without showing his hand. I might have gotten called light by pocket 4s or pocket 5s. I didn't get the sense that he had a queen. It's another pot that isn't that large for this game, but I feel good getting 3 streets of value. I'm up a few hundred, then the only 2 players that I have an edge on pick up. I'm familiar with almost all the remaining opponents, and I'm now the fish in the game. One of the most important qualities of a winning player is being honest with yourself about your skill set and leaving when you're no longer a favorite. It's time to head out. We get to tangle with Gene again as he raises to 250,000 from under the gun. I told you previously that he raises light. We just happened to get unlucky and then lucky again when we ran into the top of his range earlier on in the day. We pick up king queen suited and can mix in raising or calling against most opponents. In this situation, against a looser than average player, I prefer to 3-bet. I make it 700,000 to go. I want to isolate Gene while we're in position. My 3-bet will get tons of respect from the rest of the table because we're doing it from under the gun +1. Players are going to have to fold really strong hands behind me, including most pocket pairs and plenty of ace highs that are actually ahead of us.
Definitely think people are picking up on what Gene's been laying down. Gene not folding the king 10.
This is a very, very loose 3-bet call with the hand that Gene should have folded twice by now. We're heads up in position. The flop comes ace, jack, deuce, all diamonds. We've got the nuts with a royal flush redraw. Gene checks. All the top 4 diamonds are accounted for, making it once again tough to extract value. It's at least a good problem to have.
Would love to see a very small bet here. Or a check. Something like... Check would be really nice, but something like 350, 400 would be great. 300. Brad puts out 4. Nice.
Gene does a diamond check. I'm thinking there's almost no way that he has one since this is a 3-bet pot and we already know where all the high diamonds are. Yet Gene calls anyway while he's drawing almost stone dead. There's a small chance that he might be after me. The turn is the 6 of spades. It's a complete blank. Gene checks. He had something good enough to call a re-raise with pre-flop and then call a small bet with on the flop. Perhaps he'll be willing to call another small bet, or potentially will put in an adventurous check raise. I bet 750,000. What's interesting is that this is one of the very few flushes that I'll have in my range after 3-betting pre-flop. I can basically just have king queen suited, king 10 and king 9 suited, and none of those combos are even supposed to be pure 3-bets. Gene is tired of getting strung along. He folds. If I knew what he had, I still probably would have bet around the same amount to induce a bluff, but a check back would have been super cool to see how Gene would have played the river. Still another fairly large pot that goes our way. Maybe playing on stream isn't so bad after all.
Brad Owen, since joining the feature table, came to the feature with 8 million, up to 11.6.
He's got to be hovering in the top 5, top 10, right?
He's out there cruising, that's for sure.
Later on, I'm dealt king-queen suited in middle position. There's a $40 straddle on. I raised to 140. Bear is on the button with 10-9 of hearts. He calls. Skydiver Scott has pocket fours in the small blind. He makes the call as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It's king jack 3 with 2 clubs. We've got top pair. Scott checks. I check, mostly for deception, to allow Bear to take a stab at it now if he wants, or Scott might on the turn. He's already tried to bluff me once today. Bear checks back his gutter. The turn is the 8 of spades. Scott checks. It's time for me to build the pot. I bet 300. Probably looks somewhat strange for me to bet turn after checking the previous street. Bear has picked up an open-ended straight draw. He has good reason to believe that I may not be strong. I could have something like ace jack or queen jack and play this the same way. Bear raises to 1,000. His line really makes almost no sense. He could have maybe turned a set of 8s, but that's about the only strong hand that he's representing. In my head, I'm thinking he probably has exactly 10-9. The small blind folds. I've completely under-repped my hand with hopes that someone would try and bluff at the pot. Everything's going exactly according to plan. I call. The river is the deuce of clubs. I'm not too worried about it because Bear may have bet flop or just called my turn bet with a flush draw. I check. Bear immediately checks back. We win a $2,500 pot. It's the first one in a while. A few orbits later, we look down and see king-queen suited in the cutoff. Onto the gun limps in. He needs to be punished to the full extent. I raise to 40. The small blind is a somewhat new player to the table. He 3-bets to 130. It's on the smaller side. Onto the gun folds. I'm getting over 2-1 and I'm in position. I call. We're heads up. The flop comes ace jack deuce with 2 spades. We flop the nut flush draw and a gutter. Small blind checks. I'm not sure if he's trapping with a set, or perhaps he has a hand like kings or queens and genuinely doesn't like the flop. I check to see a free card. It's the 10 of clubs. We drilled the straight. What a dream. The small blind checks once more. Most people don't check twice with sets after being the aggressor pre-flop. Maybe he's not that strong. I bet 140 for value. The opponent isn't going to be chased away for that amount. He calls. I'm rooting for a blank. That's what we get. The river is the 3 of clubs. We still have the nuts and we have something on the line. We just need to reel it in. The small blind checks. He's going to Paintown and I want to give him the full experience, but I can't do it unless he pays full price. I bet 450. I'm hoping that the opponent will be towards the top of his range, or maybe he'll call me light thinking that I could be bluffing with a hand like 9-8 suited or a small pocket pair. The player thinks for a very long time. Haley's comment is come and gone twice before he ultimately makes the call. We get him good. No one at the table expected us to have it. The player called us with second pair. He shows that he has pocket kings. We make the maximum on that one. We go from being slightly stuck to being up 500 on the session. Here we've got king-queen suited in the small blind. The button raises to 30. You're not supposed to flat any hands from the small blind when the button opens and the straddle's on. You're supposed to play a tight range and either 3-bet or fold. King-queen suited definitely falls within the playable 3-bet range. We re-raise to 120. That's apparently not enough for my buddy Jake, who's on my left in the big blind. He cold 4-bets to 280, while our mutual friend Jeff has come over from another table to say hi and watch us battle. The button folds. It's not much more for us, and we're playing with piles in our stack. I call. We're heads up, out of position in a 4-bet pot. The flop comes 10-3 deuce with 2 clubs. We've got a flush draw with 2 overs and a backdoor straight draw. I check. I wouldn't mind seeing a free turn. We don't get it, but we won't have to pay much. The big blind bet's 175. I love the price we're getting. I call. The turn is the king of diamonds, giving us top pair to go along with our big draw. I check, expecting to see another bet from my friend since this is more often going to be a better card for him. The big blind doesn't bite. He surprisingly checks back. Our top pair is probably in the lead. The river is the 7 of hearts. It's a blank. I don't get the sense that my buddy has much. He could have a hand like ace queen or worse. I check to induce a bluff because I know that that's what Jake, who's wearing a red shirt and khakis, likes to do. The big blind takes out some black chips at bet 700. No time goes by before we grab chips to instantly call.
Call.
What do we have there, Jake? What do we got? You guys probably thought I was lying about the red shirt to make a Jake from State Farm joke, didn't you? Not this time. We're sitting right next to each other, and like a good neighbor, we crush his soul into tiny pieces. There's nothing like a sweet victory in a large pot against a good friend who tried to bluff us. We're up over $5,000 tonight. Here we've got King Queen of Hearts under the gun +1. Under the gun limps in for 10. She likes doing that. And I actually saw her do it with Ace King one time earlier, so it's not just weak hands that she's limping in with. Nonetheless, I raised a 40 to isolate the opponent and take control. Our friend from Andorra has made his way to the main game. He calls our raise from the cutoff. The initial limper calls for 30 more as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop. The dealer puts out Jack 6 deuce rainbow. We don't connect. Under the gun checks. I don't want to bluff into multiple people. I check. Andorra's only poker pro, may or may not have anything, but he's gonna bet. He makes it 50. That's enough to get under the gun to fold. You know how I said we didn't connect? Well, we at least have 2 overs and some backdoor draws. The bet we're facing is on the smaller side. It's close to 1/3 of the pot. We're getting good enough odds. I call to see if we can improve. The turn is the 5 of hearts, giving us the flush draw. I check. The opponent slows down. He checks back. Again, when he checks on this turn, he's going to have 1 pair at best a lot of the time. It's helpful to understand this because the river is the deuce of hearts, giving us the mythical backdoor flush that you always hear me talk about, but almost never see materialize. Because we were able to rule out the opponent having 2 pair or better on the turn, we can rule out him having us beat with a full house. There's a tiny chance that he could have the ace-high flush, but he probably would have bet again on the turn if he picked up extra equity. With all this in mind, we essentially have free reign to go for value because we've got the effective nuts. When I hit hidden strong hands on the river, especially after it's checked through on the previous street because the opponent may have been trying to pot control, I like to go with larger sizings. I bet 200 into 235. The opponent quickly flicks in a calling chip because he doesn't believe me, just like I don't believe Andorra is a real country. We've got the best hand. The dealer is kind enough to place our flush right in front of the opponent in case he needs a better look. I actually like the dude a lot. He's a good player and a nice guy. He represents the fictional country of Andorra almost as well as its neighboring country Neverland is represented by Tinkerbell. We get a good run out to win a nice pot after what didn't look to be too promising of a flop. In this one, we've got King Queen suited in the cutoff, Rampage straddled to 20 to increase the action. He's down today, and so is Andrew, so the 3 of us aren't doing well collectively. I raised to 60. The big blind seems like a solid pro. He 3-bets to 225. He's going to be doing this with a wide range of hands to give himself a good opportunity to win the pot without having to see the flop, and to make it less enticing for the straddler to stick around. We're well into the top half of our range. I call for 165 more to see a flop. The dealer puts out Queen Jack 6 with 2 spades. We've got top pair with a good kicker, but we're still losing to a lot of hands that the big blind could have, including aces, kings, queens, jacks, ace queen, and queen jack. Sometimes you could even have a set of 6s. The big blind checks because we can still have plenty of strong hands as well, including all the sets, top, and queen jack suited. My general sense is that we're best at the moment. I'm not totally sure though. I put out a small bet of 150 to take control of the pot while still making it enticing for worse hands like ace-jack, king-jack, ace-king, and ace-10 type of hands to stick around. The opponent calls. The turn is the deuce of spades, so the flush draw gets there. It's definitely something to be a little worried about, but he probably would have bet on the flop with the flush draw. The big blind checks. I don't want this pot to get too bloated relative to the strength of our hand. I check back to see river. The dealer puts out the 5 of diamonds. I'm happy because if we were ahead on the turn, we should still be ahead. The big blind checks again. Given how this has been played, the opponent should have felt comfortable betting for value with anything that beats us. The fact that he didn't bet after I checked back turn indicates that we likely have the best hand. The problem is that it'll be tough for worse hands to call anything too large. I bet 350, it's less than half the pot. If we get called and win, we'll be a big step closer to the even mark for the day. The opponent appears to be very annoyed with the spot that he's found himself in. He's got to have some showdown value. It seems more and more likely that he either has a jack or some pair that he knows isn't good that he's having a tough time getting away from. I'm rooting for a call because we bet for value. The big blind can't resist getting to showdown. After a minute and a half of tanking, he calls. We show him our top pair. It takes a little while for the opponent to process the fact that he's been beat, then he ultimately mucks without showing. We get the win. Things are trending in the right direction for us after winning a sizable pot. With this one, we're down less than $150, but we still have a little work to do. A few orbits in, the Nick game is on, and so's the double straddle to 50 when Crypto Max raises to 150 from the cutoff. Max already won a hand and doesn't have his knit button anymore. Big Daddy Chaz has already won a hand as well and doesn't have his nit button either, but what he does have is a suited king in the small blind and the heart of someone nicknamed Big Daddy Chaz. He puts in the 3-bet to 650. I'm one of 2 players left with the nit button, and we've got King Queen suited in the under the gun +1 double straddle. I know that Chaz likes a 3-bet light because I played with him a handful of times previously, and he's already 3-bet at a higher frequency than normal this session. We've got great removal to high pocket pairs and strong aces. With the double straddle to 50, we've essentially got about 40 big blinds in our stack. I'm not folding this good of a hand given the circumstances. I'm not calling either.
On.
All in. Brad trying to get rid of his nit button and not have to pay the tax.
2,000? Close. I think it might be a little bit more.
We get through the initial pre-flop raiser who's holding the best hand with ace-9. We have Big Daddy Chaz completely crushed. He's getting about 2-1 on a call, but he obviously can't stick around with King-5 suited after facing a cold 4-bet shove when he's caught scraping the bottom of the 3-bet bin. Chaz stuns everybody and makes the shocking call. I figure we're behind or flipping at best. Instead, you can see on my face, I'm not only surprised by what we got called by, I'm surprised that we've got the commanding lead. It's not often that you get it in with king high and have over 70% equity. We still need to hold to win a pot more than 4,500, and we're only running it once. The flop comes 10-4 deuce rainbow. Aside from Chaz having some backdoor draws, there's not much to be concerned about. The turn is the 6 of hearts to get the juices flowing and make us sweat, as it's a card that looks like a 5, plus it gives the opponent a gut shot straight draw. The river is another one that looks too much like a 5 or 3, but it pairs the 4, and our king-queen gets us the all-in victory. We double up and avoid having to pay the nit tax to each player. It's nice to get off to a good start. I appreciate the action from Big Daddy Chaz. About 20 minutes later, we're dealt king-queen suited in the hijack. I raise to 60. If we're not going multi-way to the flop, it's almost not Texas poker. The cutoff, small blind, and under the gun straddler all call. We're going 4 ways to the flop against 3 recreational players. The dealer puts out King Jack 8 rainbow. We've got top pair and some backdoor draws. Small blind and under the gun check is another flop that's good for our range and actual hand. We can have all the sets, some 2-pair combos, and the strongest 1-pair hands. Our opponents won't typically have sets of kings or jacks. We have removal to 2-pair. I bet 150. The cutoff is Mo. We know that he likes to play a lot of hands, and he rarely folds when I'm betting. He calls. The small blind calls as well. The under the gun straddler sees a lot of interest from everyone, but he's not concerned. In fact, he puts in the check raise to 575. This opponent has been playing on the wilder and more aggressive side. He could be doing this with all kinds of straight draws. I'm not worried about the opponents behind me having us beat because they only called our flop bet rather than raise on a coordinated board. The path we'll choose comes down to whether or not I believe that we've got the straddler beat. He's mostly just revving pocket 8s, king 8, and king jack. Even in the instances when we are up against those hands, we'll still have outs against his 2-pair combos, and there are a lot of turns that'll give us potentially more outs if we're behind. I call for 425 more. We'll hopefully be heads up going forward because it could be difficult to play future streets multi-way. The cutoff and small blind fold, we get what we wanted. It's down to 2 of us and we're in position. The turn is the 9 of diamonds, completing a couple straights. We at least pick up a gut shot straight draw, and we have removal to the nuts. The opponent has slightly more than a pot-sized bet left in his stack. He jams for 1790 total. It was a quick decision to rip it, which feels a little off to me, like the opponent could be bluffing with some type of combo draw, or at least isn't totally confident that he's got the winner. We get a count just to confirm the total. I don't like the position that we're in. Folding is definitely reasonable, especially against certain players. I just can't get myself to do it here. I call to take the gamble. Let's just drill a 10 one time so we don't have to sweat too much. We're running it once in a pot over $5,000. This is a big one, the kind that can make or break a session. The river is the queen of diamonds, putting 4 to the straight on board. We beat virtually no semi-bluffs, and we're still losing to set combos. Luckily for us, the opponent turns over king 8 offsuit for top and bottom pair. He gets every dollar in good, but we had quite a few outs, with all cards from a 9 to a queen giving us the victory. We win a monster pot. I'm always a little frustrated with myself when I get it in bad. That's not how I prefer to win, but in this case, I'll take it.